All right, hello guys, and before the video starts, I just wanted to say welcome to the 25 Days of Winds of Winter Year 2. I did not know this was going to be the first video of the series when I was recording this. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce you guys into what we're going to be doing. Going to be doing daily uploads till Christmas, talking about all sorts of Winds of Winter theories. And it made sense to start with this one as we're going to be talking about the Nightlamp Theory, and that's going to lead into other theories in the north that we're going to talk about in the coming days. So again, before we get into it, big shout out to Voice of Oldtown and for him being on the channel. If you guys wanted to subscribe to him, which you should, he's fantastic. The link will be in the description. Check him out.
Viserys Targaryen here, and I just wanted you to know, Christmas is coming.
All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to the Grease Comics YouTube channel, and we're welcomed by the Voice of Oldtown as he's blessed us with our his presence once again. We're gonna be talking about some Nightlamp Theory and Stannis in the Winds of Winter. And yeah, so we're going to be doing this as part of a long theory event for December. This man will be a part of at least a few of them. So, you know, go over to his channel, visit, hit a subscribe for the quality content. Let's get into the whole theory. And the first question, again, we're going to go very general, just because I want to hear your thoughts before we get into all the specific details and stuff. What do you think are the actual odds of Stannis winning the first actual battle, not like taking Winterfell, but the first initial battle with the Freys and the Mannerly Force?
I think out of all of the theories that are out there, this is the one where I'm just like, that's just how it goes. But with George R. R. Martin, you just never know because he is prone to rewriting, and but you can't really undo all of that setup that is there. The evidence that points to the Nightlamp coming true. So yeah, I'd say about 90%. I'm pretty damn sure it's I think Stannis is going to win at the Crofters Village.
I agree. I think it's one of those things where there's been a lot of evidence here that if Stannis was going to lose, I'm not sure why George would bring it up or put such an emphasis on certain things. I think I have more question marks after this battle, if he's going to take Winterfell, which will be its own video during this, but getting to that point, I think is a little bit more easier. I think it's a little bit more straightforward. But let's continue. So my next question is, there's a lot of aspects, there's a lot of things going on. What would you say is the most important aspect to Stannis winning this battle?
Well, obviously he has Hosteen Frey, who just lost his brother, who's obviously not very, he doesn't have a big brain. He's not as clever as Stannis is. He has him coming at him, and it seems like Stannis has a pretty decent plan with the beacon, the fake beacon on the Isle of the Weirwood Tree, and definitely the Weber,
Yeah.
because that plan is not gonna work if it doesn't. It's not as definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's so apparent that George brings it up multiple times. I have a quote in here from Asha, but it's from Dance. But this is when they're basically traveling and the blizzard's really picking up and they're trying to make camp. But the quote goes, "She was lost before she had gone 10 yards. Asha could see the beacon fire burning atop the watchtower, a faint orange glow floating in the air. Elsewise, the village was gone. She was alone in a white world of snow and silence." Again, just really paints the picture that even Asha, who knows where this camp is, she can't see anything.
You can't see shit.
And now imagine you're the Freys, and it's you're not very accustomed to this weather. You don't really know the landscape of the north that well. And even if you have been shown some maps, maybe by Roose, as to where their camp is, it's okay, that's one thing. Going out there and actually finding it is going to be completely different in these conditions. And so I think that, that really builds into this idea of okay, if you can make a fake beacon, well, if you're some of these Frey soldiers, you're going to be thinking, okay, that's the one thing that's going to point us to where we need to go. And so I think that's just a big part of that. But as we get to this actual fake beacon, I'm interested to see what are your thoughts on how it's actually going to work. Do you think Stannis is going to do some sort of sacrifice to maybe make it go brighter, or just some regular actual fake light tower? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we have to start earlier than that. I think Stannis knows that he knows about Mance Raiders' fake out death. I think that he wanted to lure Arya Stark out to get a reaction out of the Bolton and Frey army. And so I don't think that he's sacrificing Theon. So I don't think, so it could be anyone. It could be one of the traders, one of the Karstark traders. So yeah, I think it will kind of mirror the scene that we have with Mance Rayder's death. In that, you know, you don't really need King's blood. It's gonna be a sacrifice, like most likely. But apart from that, I don't see Theon dying. I don't see Asha dying.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think they die here. I think their characters have more to go than just being some sort of sacrifice here. One thing which you kind of talked about, I think if someone is going to get burned, it's going to be some of these traitors, like maybe specifically Arnoff Karstark. If he even wants to claim, okay, we're doing this because they are King's blood, you could point to, again, Robb was, you know, he's a king, and the Karstarks related to the Starks, so you could maybe justify it that way if you're gonna burn him for that reason, or because King's blood, you know, is said to be more powerful, even though there's been many times in the story where it's like, I don't know if that's really true, given that we've basically just burned normal people. But yeah, I think that it could be important, maybe to the story of how George wants to do it, how maybe this fake beacon has some lighter or bigger presence, I guess, to really draw in the phrase. But something else I think we should probably look at it when you look at like Hostine Frey and the Frey force as a whole. They're coming in really thinking like Stannis' forces are basically completely already almost lost already. Like they're basically just coming in for like a cleanup job, right? Because it's outside looking in, Stannis' men are freezing their asses off. They are hungry. They should have extremely low morale, which is kind of the case, but it's one of those things where it's the underestimation of Stannis that he's already lost. And so I think that's going to be another factor as to why, like, you know, the Freys are just going to rush in. I don't think they're going to, like, sit back and look, okay, maybe we should think about what's going on here. I don't know if you differ on that opinion or if you got anything else you'd like to talk about there, but...
And it's not as drastic as it was in the show. Like, Stannis is fishing the ice lakes. They have food. There's that at least. They have well-equipped foot soldiers in the mountain clans. It's not as drastic as it was in the show, and I think that, you know, it's very... You can't really attack any other way than, you know, straight ahead when you're the Freys. And that is a big advantage. And
I mean, I think that's the other thing of, like, when you look at, like, maps or people that have made images of kind of what the battle is going to look like, there's only a certain area in which you can really attack Stannis, because it's like you have, because he's kind of basically in between like two kind of lakes right now, and they're both frozen over. And so you can either attack straight, so you can attack him basically a straight and in the back. So Stannis' position, I will say, which I don't think anybody's expecting, I think if Stannis loses this battle, I think people would start, he's going to die. The story for Stannis is probably over. I don't think many people think that, but just based on his position is very much, we can't really retreat. Unless, because if they send even some bit of army around to the backside, there's no real escape there. But finding that, like, kind of narrow path between these two lakes in these conditions is going to be extremely difficult, even if, like, you're looking for it. And I don't think the Freys are going to be looking for it. Yeah. So that's going to be major as well.
Yeah, Hostine is already emotional, so you already have it in that regard, and it's not very clever. So yeah, I don't think he's a match for one of the greatest military commanders in Westeros history.
And then that's kind of, you know, we're even factoring this on. We haven't even, like, talked about the Manderleys, like, at all, right? So like, that's a whole nother aspect of this, is like, what do the Manderleys do? I'm curious, what do you think they do? I think there's like two routes that they could take during this.
I think they poetically are going to sit this one out, like the late Walder Frey did, you know?
Yep.
Which just further mocks the phrase, if you think about it, because, you know, that is the thing that the Freys were known for, and now here the supposed allies are, and they're not coming. Because if you think about it, Wyman already has a pact of sorts with Davos, so why would he immediately rush against Stannis?
Agreed.
I mean, if Stannis is defeated right then and there, then he could just join in and nothing is lost. But he's in a very good position, and I think because Stannis is going to win, he's just gonna sit this one out.
I agree. I think the banner leagues have like two options, and I think, you know, I agree with what you said. They could easily just sit out, and this is something I've changed kind of my opinion on. Is it's like they don't really need to do anything, right? They don't need to go to one side or the other. They can just easily say, "Oh, we got lost in the snow. We just couldn't make it. We don't know what happened," and all of that. And maybe like if they even then go back to Winterfell, the Frey force has been defeated. They could be, you know, part of the reason Stannis is able to take Winterfell is they'll already be in the castle. They have sympathies towards him. And that could be a whole another thing we could talk about, you know, in another video. But that, yeah, I think a lot of that makes sense. But I think another last key point of like evidence that I think is kind of important is that Stannis like has experience with like, the idea of like a night lamp, of like this trick, right? We're kind of introduced into this with like Davos storyline. And so my biggest thing would be like, why, if this wasn't the case, right? If we weren't going to have this night lamp type trick, like why would George like almost wink at the audience in that? Like if you're paying attention, like, you know, Stannis like threatened, you know, them about doing this exact thing, about taking Lighthouse and just turning it off, and that would cause, you know, maybe a ship to go awry or whatever. And so I think a lot of the evidence points to the Stannis will at least try this trick, right? You know, I think if George is going to have Stannis die at this point, he's at least going to have him go out in a meaningful way in which, you know, he takes out a lot of Freys or whatever. I don't predict this, but just playing devil's advocate, you know, maybe looking at some other opposing arguments here, that, you know, maybe Stannis does pull off this trick and maybe it goes fairly well, but it's not enough or something like that. But I don't see it happening. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to add to kind of what we've talked about? Because
I think it would go ahead. I mean, so I'm not sure if this is a topic for this video, but something that I kind of changed my mind about is that whole thing about Shireen and, you know, him wanting Justin Massey to get the cell source for Shireen in the case that he dies. I kind of changed my mind in that I think that Stannis wanted to fake his death all along, and he just wanted to reassure Justin, you know, if you hear that I'm dead in Bravos, please still deliver those soldiers. I desperately need them because I'm not dead.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because like that's going to be a talking point for almost like 2 other videos I'm going to be doing. But yeah, I think that's really important to understand going forward. Like, why would Stannis faking his death make a lot of sense in the context of the story? Given that we know, like, this pink letter, regardless, like, who it's written by, whether if it's just a lie blatantly that Stannis is alive or dead. Maybe. I know it's a popular thing. I don't know. I'm on the fence about that, but we'll talk about that at a different time.
If you think about it,
no, I do
Stannis
think
is really in on Mance Raider's fake out death, then it would only make sense.
I mean, I agree. I think when you look at, you know, why that would be, there's just, regardless of who even wrote it, right? Like if it is Mance, if it's Ramsay, if it's Stannis himself, there's a lot of reason as to why Stannis would want to appear dead, right? Whether that's Jon bringing this other wildling army, whether it's, you know, all of these things, whether it's to sneak into Winterfell, to give the Boltons this sense, or false sense of confidence that he is dead, he's gone. So there's just a lot of reasons as to why that would make a lot of sense for Stannis to do that. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this video. Again, thanks
for having me,
for coming on the channel. Always a pleasure, especially when I've done, you know, these topics, you know, a few times. It's good to have other thoughts and you know, bouncing opinions off of, or just to talk about things that I miss. But yeah. Also, while we're on the end of this, okay, I want you to know I was gonna troll you. You know how I have the color underneath the names, like, or like, you know, on like the overlay. God. Yeah, I was gonna make mine red and make yours just green.
Well, I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do you one. How about that, huh?
Oh, you love to see that.
The background, huh?
You love to see that.
Dark. Let's make it darker. Let's make it green.
Let's make it green.